Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection, for another very, very important show. The show today, we have named it Finances Now and in the Future. I think if you have lived, your 40, 50 years, maybe more, you will realize that if you don't handle your finances well today, that's a pretty good sign that you probably will be in trouble in the future. I think if we want to end good, we have to start good. That's why we named the show Finances Now and in the Future. We need to have good finances. We need to make a lot of money, as much as possible. We need to manage it well. We need to make it grow. And then investing it in other ways, so that in the future, when we retire, when we hit the 60s, right, then we can say, all right, I'm ready to retire, and I'm not going to live in poverty. So that's kind of like the sequence, right, in finances. So today we have two guests with us, both they work in the finances field. And we're going to basically ask them a lot of questions. And actually, I'm going to give you the number right now, 602-759-1910. If you would like to give us a call about finances, we'll take your calls too, so that we can make this show very, very engaging. Exchanging goods for goods is a thing of the past. We used to do that before, many years ago. Today, money is the essential commodity that helps us run our lives. We cannot buy anything we need or wish without money. We need money for now and for our future. We need to make money. We need to manage money, and we need to protect our money. This is our subject today. Let me introduce our guest. And by the way, if you are on Facebook, I'm asking you if you wouldn't mind following our page. The page is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. Again, AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. I'm going to just start from my right, and I'm going to ask both of my guests to introduce yourself. Give us your name, who you work for, and basically what you do on a daily basis, specifically as it relates to finances. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, welcome. My name is Brenda Lopez, and I am the director of a homeownership center at Trellis. And what we're really focusing on is financial capability. So really getting, folks to be financially, empowered and capable, and really being able to understand their finances. A lot of times, we've never even seen a credit report. And even if we have, what does that mean? So getting, primarily first-time home buyers to purchase their first home, but there's so much that needs to happen before that, right? So it's getting the finances in order, really knowing what we need to do to increase our credit, reduce debt, and really increase savings, again, to become financially secure.
Right. So your focus is home ownership, as I can hear. But obviously, to be able to qualify for loans, you have to be managing your finances well. So I assume that when somebody comes to you and they are, planning to buy a home, you kind of do an assessment and see whether they're ready. And if they are not, you basically put them in a path to being ready in terms of the credit, savings, debt, et cetera, correct?
Yes. We'll sit down and complete a complete action plan for them, so they know exactly what it is that they need to do to achieve those goals, whatever that goal is, whether it be reduction in debt, increased savings, just or all of the above. It's
Right.
just, getting them where they need to be financially and understanding that.
Right.
So yes, primarily focus on homeownership, but not necessarily. So we're there
Right.
to help anybody that needs help in that area.
Perfect. Thank you. Brenda Lopez from Trellis. Now you're next.
Thank you. My name is Gloria Guerra, and we have a firm that is called Bilingual Insurance and HR Solutions. And it's not just like any other firm. We give that personalized service because one of the things in insurance and in getting people together house, we need to do a financial analysis. Everything starts with a financial analysis. So you need to have a budget in order to have the money that you hardly earn work for you in the way of a home, in the way of which car you're going to buy, in the way of which insurance you need and which one you do not need, and if you have the means to pay it for good. And also, well, if we work, we cannot work for all our lives. We know we're going to die, so we need to prepare that. And we know we are going to retire, so we need to make a good financial analysis and a good budgeting so we have an instrument that helps us retire when we decide to and we can't work.
So basically, throughout our lives, we have to have a good foundation, a financial foundation to be able to do pretty much anything. As I said earlier, my dad called me this morning and he says, "How are you? What are you doing?" So I said, "I'm working so I can make some greens." Greens means dollars, right? Benjamins. So I can keep eating. And that's obviously the name of the game these days is, money is, we live in a capitalistic system and everything is obtained by money. In reality, we don't need money. We need food. We need water. But without the money, you can't have the other. So
there's a saying that says, okay, money is not happiness. It's true, but it's going to solve a lot of your needs,
right,
and a lot of your problems.
So I would like us to basically focus our conversation on even making money is not easy, and then once you make it, I sometimes say that Latinos are very, very good to making money, but they're also excellent in spending it, and that I sometimes it hurts because a lot of times we kind of do it without measure. And so the conversation in our show today is going to focus on, making sure that we are budgeting and staying within our limits so that we don't, go to credit and then credit will bite us.
Absolutely. A lot of times we say, well, if I only had more money, I would save. If I only had more money, I would work on my budget. But the truth is we need to do it regardless of what we make because the more we make, the more we spend. And,
right.
I just read a fact somewhere or a statistic where it says only 10% of people making over $100,000, actually can say that they can make ends meet. So, that's pretty
and that was going to be a question that I was going to ask because there could be potentially people out there thinking, well, I barely make ends meet. Why do I need to budget? What would you say to those people that think that they don't make enough and that they shouldn't budget, they shouldn't worry about managing finances?
Well, I'm going to go back in time about 20 years ago when I was a homestay mom. For those homestay moms, Latinas that are listening, even if you're a single mom or married, is that sometimes we think that because we are receiving kids' care as an insurance or we're receiving food stamps, we're just hardly making ends meet. No money is going to be enough if we want to increase our standards all the time and keep up with the neighbors and keep up with the millionaires. It takes baby steps. But the first step that I use as a technique, it reminded me of my grandmother, that first of all, I didn't have a checking account. I didn't have a credit card because then you are tempted to have a credit card. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any loans except our car. But we wanted to have a house, which is the dream of a lot of people. Like you were saying, a lot of Latinos come here, they work 2 or 3 jobs, and they still live paycheck to paycheck, and it's because they want. Because if they budget, it's super easy. Let's say you receive, at that time it was $1,500 a month that we received. And what we did is like, I created old school. No computer, no nothing, even if I have to. But you need to touch it. So I put it in envelopes. And I use envelope for my house, for my rent, envelope for my food, envelope for entertainment, envelope for gas.
Talk about budgeting, huh?
Yeah,
The
an
old-fashioned
envelope.
way.
So, but it still works. You know,
Of
we go
course.
to basics
Of
because,
course.
I mean, there's also a trap that, I pay everything online. And then you have withdrawals, everything online. And all of a sudden, you're just like, where did the money go? So when you have that, it's very easy. If your husband tells you, let's go have dinner, it's like, we already spent what we have for this month, so next month.
Right.
So you need to be very savvy and saying, okay, I'm going to go once or twice a week to a concert and in North Central, for example,
Yeah.
with my friends, but it's from the envelope. You cannot spend more than what the envelope has.
Of course.
I really love what you said is what it's really key is that you said it's what worked for me, right? I always get that question asked
Right.
when I'm doing my workshops. It's what's the best budget to use? Like the best budget to use is what works for you, right? We have millions of Excel templates out there that we can use. And if we're not, we don't understand it, we're not an Excel guru. I mean, we don't have to be. But if we're not going to use it every day and it's not going to work for us, it's not going to be the best budget
Right,
for us. If
right.
the envelope method works for you, then use it.
Right.
If carrying a notepad works for you, then that's the best budget for you.
Definitely,
The best budget for you
definitely.
is whatever works
But
for
you know what I like about the envelopes, because I try also, the checking and the forms and the notebook. But if you have it there, you're not tempted to, I will put it from here to here in the note. You need
Right.
to see it and touch those Benjamins and say, $10. No, I better save it. Because
Right,
you are
right.
seeing it, you are feeling it, and it's just a different, it's like it goes into the conscious and the subconscious,
Right.
And it creates the emotion, it removes the emotional part of, I'm going to buy it, here's a credit card. Because I don't
And
know.
that's a very good point, removing the emotion from the reality. We're going to pick up on that. We have to go on a short break. Stay with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. The subject today, finances now and in the future. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. I love talking about finances because it's one of those subjects that never goes away. We always have to be addressing it. I mean, even if you are, you have currently a good job and for some reason you lose that job and you go to another one that is not as good, you still have to revisit your finances or vice versa. Maybe you get a better job or what have you. So it's very important to always keep on top of our finances. Super, super important. I wanted just to throw in some numbers that I did some calculations in Excel spreadsheet. So I calculated that there are roughly 21 working days in a month, roughly 21 days. If somebody works 8 hours a day, that's a total of 168 hours a month. If somebody makes $15 an hour, that person's going to be making roughly $2,500. If 25% is deducted for taxes purposes and what other things, then you're left with $1,890 to take home. Under the same scenario, somebody making $20 an hour, they would make $3,360. 850 would be deducted for taxes and all that kind of good stuff, and net home would be $2,520. Somebody making $25 an hour, they will be making $4,200, $1,050 for taxes and all that. $3,150 would be taken home. Somebody making $30 an hour, $5,000 would be the gross, and then $1,200 for deductions or taxes, and then $3,700 would be net. So I just kind of brought some perspective to this because, I mean, if this is very important to keep in mind. How much money are you making? how much money are you bringing home, right? And I venture to say that if a couple works, you're pretty much thinking in the neighborhood of $30 an hour, minimum. I'm going pretty low if the couple works 15. So that's about bringing home $37.80. These numbers, it may or may not mean a lot, but this is part of the way that we can figure it out what's going on with our finances, because a lot of times we make money, but then the deductions for Social Security, insurance, and the taxes, and this and the other. So now let me throw in another question. Is it your sense that Latinos are making good money, decent money, or some are making a lot of money? What is it, Gloria?
Well, I can tell you. Number one, in the perspective that you gave, they say that the median income, the average, it's about $50,000.
Okay.
But take home, it's about $38,000. So you're right on the dot there.
Okay.
Something very important is you talk about right now the scenario about an employee that is taking taxes. Sometimes people go and say, oh, I'm going to put zero so they don't deduct any taxes from me. And then comes April 15, and they say, oh, I owe to the IRS, and they are upset. Well, it's not good to give too much either because, I'm expecting a refund. Well, you're letting someone else administer your money. So just filling the forms, like you said, an average 25% between the federal and state. So they just take enough, not too much, not too little.
Right.
So when you were saying if it's the perspective that Hispanics are paying more or less, well, a shout out there to Hispanics and Latinos is like, for me, they are Hispanics is like times two. They speak another language. So that's very important. There is an asset, and it's an asset of value. They need to see that they are adding value to the community. 23 years ago, when I arrived here, there was about 10% of Hispanic or Latino people that came out. But now it's like about 46%. So they need to have that empowered that, I value myself. And it depends on the kind of job. If they are employees, they will make probably less money than if they are business owners. Because the business owners, there's no
if they
limit.
are successful, of course.
How much money you can make. And as an employee, it's just a little raise every year.
Yeah. So now, how about you, Brenda? What is your impression? Because see, the population of Latinos that are getting educated, it's increasing, but it hasn't always been there. If you think about our parents, our grandparents, most of them didn't get like college degrees. So I assume we're getting better. What is your take on that?
I really hope so, because, I feel like I learned the hard way, right? So I learned from, the jobs I've been in, and also, through the School of Hard Knocks, just going through hard times and knowing, what got us there, and let's not do that again, or what can we do to not get there again.
Right.
And then, educating the next generation. So it's so funny. My daughter just posted something yesterday on a meme that it was about, Americans buying their children their first car at 16. And she says, I'm not going to do that for my kids. I'm thankful for my parents that told me I had to save.
There you go.
Because I also had to establish my credit before I got my first car loan. So, it's just, again, trying to teach them and not wanting them to go financially through what this generation. But, I just say finances, credit and wealth just go hand in hand. It's really hard to not have good credit, but try to create that wealth.
Right. So do you think that for the most part, our generation, those that are 40s, 50s currently, are much better in terms of being more knowledgeable and perhaps have taken action to manage their finances? Or maybe they're making a little bit more, but not necessarily have become good at the finances.
So real quick, yes and no. So,
Okay.
We have classes and we have free workshops at our office. Some we do have a fee for, but we can't seem to fill our Spanish ones. But I do definitely see the need there, because when we sit there one-on-one with them and look at their credit report, they do need more education on understanding credit reports, especially.
So it doesn't matter how much they make, if they don't have their finances in order, it's still going to be messy. Go ahead, Gloria.
Well, look, everyone, I think, the people that are here, that's why it's the land of the brave. Everyone is super brave to coming from other states to come here. Why? Because they have the opportunity to fulfill their dreams. Their dreams is to have their car, the education, their home. Right? Because, Latinos normally buy one or two home stops. Here, probably The Americans are just every 2 years they are changing homes, changing cars, leasing everything. But we are the people that want to own something. So it's very important. I think, yes, the people that are 40s and 50s are more knowledgeable, but the hard way, like you were saying, because we arrived here and we were not used to the economical system here. So it's like, oh, there's a credit report. When you're in Mexico, it's like, it doesn't matter if you owe everybody and you don't pay. It doesn't affect you. You can still get a home and get a car.
So are you saying that some people may come to this country with that mentality and they get in trouble because they get loans and they basically
they
don't pay them?
They owe everybody.
They think everybody's going to forget, with time.
It's because they're in Mexico, you know everybody.
Okay.
And then the person dies. And everything is paid for because you passed away. Here, no. If you owe $20,000, you are married, then they will go and hunt the spouse for the debt.
I have another question. Do you think Latinos are more of a present people and not so much of the future, where we live the now, the today? How is it that today and now? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
As opposed to thinking also of retirement and this and that.
I think we're starting because a lot of companies like Trellis or others like AARP, they are putting seminars together. We just need to make more awareness to the community that the classes are there, because a lot of people, when you were saying, a lot of people are dropping out of college because they cannot pay. And they cannot pay because they didn't start saving. The parents didn't start saving. The students are working at a cafe shop just to be living on their own.
Are we a person who just live in the moment and forget about the future?
I think millennials are doing that they are just living the present and they know everything. But in 40s and 50s, we're trying to save because we don't know what's going to happen with that millennial that it's like around and just trying to pretend that they know it all because they were born here, contrary that we were not
They
born
had it
here.
somewhat easier than most of us, I guess.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Especially, I think, for our culture, it's kind of taboo to talk about death and planning for that. And again, going back, the hard way.
Like, I don't want to talk about that.
Yes, when my father passed away, we were not prepared, and sometimes it's not expected. But now knowing and planning for my mother, because we haven't, we don't want to go through that again, and it's so sad to see, families encounter such a hardship when somebody passes, even though, it was going to be expected, but there was still no plan. Right. And it's, having to have those car washes and, I see it all the time, to try to, raise money and just to bury our loved ones, and that's pretty sad. But when it comes to talking about it, it's like, no, we don't want to talk about it. So,
I hate to talk about myself, but I'll just do it a little bit. I began to awaken to these realities of finances early on, actually. And I basically purchased my home and I started teaching my kids. And I got to save a little bit. So I work with them. And two of my three children have their homes already. And the way when I hear them talk about managing and budgeting, and it actually is really pleasing to me, because I think that's what it's all about. Of course, the parents always set an example to the children. Hopefully, all of them will follow it. Not all the time is the case.
the one.
Right. But it's very unbelievable because, my daughter is in late 20s. My son is early 20s, and they both are paying, their homes already. And they have their degrees, and it's just, again, it's very pleasing. I usually thank them for making parenthood easier, because when your kids kind of do good in finances and they're not squandering their money and they're not counting on you to bail them out, it's a very good situation as a parent.
But you need to show them, because there's a lot of college degrees. You can be a doctor, and they are not going to teach you how to budget. They are going to teach you how to be a doctor. Because a lot of doctors is like budgeting. Okay, what? Opening a business operations. How do I do that? However, they are the most savvy person and save lives. So I think in every school there should be, because they teach you math. But what's math at work? What's math in life? It's budgeting. And if you don't budget, everything gets ruined. Your credit, your retirement, your life. Now that she was talking about, you are not prepared. We don't want to talk about death. it's the only thing we know for sure that is going to happen.
Yeah.
Death and pay taxes.
Right. And it's very interesting because what we see on TV, it's not helping us. On TV, on social media, you're not going to hear, budget. Oh, be careful how you spend your money. On the contrary, everything is spend.
Consumerism.
Right. So that doesn't help us at all either. So that's why we have to be very aware of how things are working and then make a very concrete decision to not just follow along with what's going on. We have to go on our second break. Stay with us. You are listening to AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. The subject today, finances now and in the future. And I would like to ask you a couple questions about budgeting, how to start, how to do a budget. But before I do that, I just wanted to say I almost want to mention one item that when it comes to finances, and that is your image. Your image, the image that you want to project in society is going to cost you. Depending on how strong an image, how beautiful an image you want. Do you want to keep up with how does it say? Keep up with the Joneses? Is that how you say it?
Keeping up with the
Keep up with the neighbors.
Yeah. And my compadre had a pickup, so I have to buy it a TV. If you want to kind of go with that in the brand names of things that you buy, the clothing, shoes, etc., all that has to do with the image. And I guess everybody's obviously free to do. If you want your finances in order, those kind of things have to be considered. How important is your image? How much are you willing to spend on your image? Because that, I believe, takes a lot of the money that we make just to making sure that our image is out there. Just very, very briefly, any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say, we try so hard and spend so much, usually money that we don't have, right, to try to impress people that usually don't care and don't really like us.
Right.
Right. So it's, I really like a quote by Dave Ramsey where he says, live today like no other so that you can live like no other tomorrow. Right. So today I'm not going to have the most luxurious things. Right. But, when I retire, I'm going to be comfortable while everybody else is not.
And it takes that kind of a mindset. I'm 53 and I'm in that right now. I'm living it. I mean, I'm just not going to spend my money because I'm already thinking in the future, what kind of a future do I want? How do we start? Say somebody wants to, begin to take control of their finances. And we always say budget, do a budget. What is a budget and how do we start preparing a budget?
Well, first of all, I like to, I've changed, we like to refer to it as a spending plan. I don't know why, something about a budget that just sounds like
scary.
Scary and, it's going to keep us from doing things. But I always say, I think the first step is to really analyze our spending. We have to track our spending because a lot of times we don't even know what we're spending. It's really sitting down and looking at what it is we're truly spending. I'll sit down with clients that say, I can't, I don't know how you're telling me to save when I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And, we'll look at their bank statements and really track their spending, but yet they're spending $5 on coffee every morning, right?
There
I'm
we
like,
go.
okay. And,
So
it could be anything.
detailed?
That detailed, yes.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, $5 isn't going to get me my down payment, right? Well, yes, if, over the 360 days in the year, that's what, $1,700. I don't know if I did the math correctly, but yeah, that's a pretty good,
Eating out seems to use a lot of our
absolutely.
income.
And again, it's just tracking. We don't understand what it really is we're spending until we're looking at what we're spending. And then really, putting a number behind it. So maybe the coffee wasn't going to get us a down payment, but now the coffee, added to the eating out, and then any other things that, are needs, not really
Right,
wants,
right.
and really drilling down on, is this a need or is it a want?
And that's a key word, because in doing budgeting, those two words have to be front and center. I think we would agree that a budget starts, or a spending plan, you call it.
Spending plan.
You on one column you write your income, everything that is coming in, and then on the other column you write everything and the expenses, everything that is going out. But I guess categorizing the expenses on those that are needs and those that are wants is critical, isn't it, Claudia?
Yes, I think it's critical. Two things that you talk about, the image. As long as we give a clean image, a positive image, it doesn't matter if we have $1 or 1 cent in our pocket. It's just the way that we project, because if we believe in ourselves, we need to project that we are confident people, that we have our self being right, because money is not going to buy our confidence.
I usually
So-
say that I refuse to let my car represent me, my
No,
shoes represent me, my
like-
clothes represent me.
because-
that's not going to
No.
represent me.
You are going to elevate that by being you.
Of
It
course.
doesn't matter what. It's like, okay, you may have an old car, as long as it's washed and clean, okay. And then if you want to upgrade, first it's like, do I really need to upgrade? Then to answer your question about, okay, where to start, I agree completely. I will do a list, because we do this every day with financial analysis. People are like, I don't have money to buy my life insurance. I don't have money to save for my retirement. It's like, okay. And they go to ATMs to withdraw $20 every other day, and they charge them $3. So those
Wow.
fees from the ATMs
Fees,
are a lot.
huh?
Fees, hidden fees. They buy phone insurance. So they pay, I don't know, $10 for phone insurance, but they cannot buy a burial, retirement.
Right.
It's like, but they insure something that it's $1,000 or $500. So a lot of people buy insurance on everything. They buy insurance on the disher, on the washer, on the car, on everything. Now there's insurance for everything, but before buying those insurances, like, what's the insurance that you really need? Because you're insuring all these, and it's leaks. $10 times 20 things.
And that's why I think that
200.
doing this categorization of the expenses is so critical, because there's no way around it when it comes to needs. You have to pay the rent or the mortgage, insurance on your car, the food and the light, the electricity, the water. Those are needs.
Yes.
But then when you categorize the wants, that's where there's room to do cutting, so
And
to
I
speak.
think everything, even when with the minimum salary that you said, in two people, they still can have money left.
Yeah.
Because it's the rent, like you were saying. So making a list of how much my expenses are. The rent or mortgage, like you were saying. The escrow, if they have escrow and it's not included, escrow is the insurance and the premium mortgage insurance and the home insurance. Then the car, if they have two cars. Then the insurance of the car. Sometimes people have only liability because it's the cheapest, and they are driving a BMW. If they crash, it's not going
Right.
to be enough, and they are going
Right.
to be in debt. Gas, they need to, otherwise they are up, down, just spending the gas, like being more savvy or living more money smart on that. What else? The utilities, the food, the cell phone, those are, and medicines or medication
Right.
that someone has. Either if you're an employee,
Insurance
or
is definitely
insurance.
health
There's people
insurance.
that cannot afford health insurance, and it's okay. It's not ideal, but they cannot be paying for health insurance if they cannot put food on the table.
Right.
Right. So I'm glad that they removed that.
in many
penalty for
instances, those
2020.
that with lower incomes, they qualify for
For
access, for example.
Yes. So, but they need to do a list.
Yeah.
And then once, okay, go once. Or go twice if you want to go out because that's your only
Out to eat.
out to eat,
Yeah.
if that's only your thing. But don't spend the coffee, don't spend the going to the Diamondbacks physically instead of watching it from home front row, for example.
Go
Or
ahead,
concerts.
Brenda.
No, I think something else that's really important with the spending plan, and is preparing for those emergencies. Millions of Americans are
Right.
living paycheck to paycheck, and
Right.
just one paycheck away from being homeless, which is pretty alarming, and putting in perspective the recent government shutdown where they're going on 2 paychecks now, and how many are already in trouble with their finances because they're not
That's super
saving.
important.
Absolutely.
The emergency fund, because there's always emergencies.
Would you say that once you make ends meet, the next thing would be an emergency fund?
Absolutely, but which also goes to the more you spend, the more you're going to have need for emergency fund, right? Because you need 3 to 6 months of your living expensive.
So do that budget, that spending plan to get your spending habits in check, in order. Then you're going to have a good idea what is your real monthly budget to then do that emergency fund.
And you need to include that on the budget. I will say, like, okay, these are the needs. Then the sudden things that happen, someone broke a leg or money that you don't have, or the car just broke down, you need new tires. We need to put also plates. For example, if plates, you pay them every year, but at least be saving every month so you don't have the $500 for plates. Anything that renews, any gym memberships or things like that. So you need to put it in there, but also you need to have your budget for your emergency fund. I remember it was hard for me when I started working to say, I cannot sleep because we need to pay the mortgage next month. So I said, the only way I will feel comfortable, like she was saying, is that if I have 12 months worth of my expenses covered. If I have 12 months, because 3 months, go like this.
And so there's a recommendation, but it's obviously up to you. It's better, the more the better.
Absolutely.
But imagine if you know, David,
right.
Don't worry, you are sick, you are hurt, it's okay. You will be in bed for the next couple of weeks, but you cannot work. If you know that you have a year of expenses, will you be happier and concentrate on your healing?
The AC breaks down, the tires, the vehicle. Yeah, definitely an emergency
And then
fund.
really, identifying what is a true emergency, because a lot of times, we'll have, my tags were due, so that was, a hardship. Well, that wasn't an unexpected expense. You knew that they were going to be due on this time at the, last year.
Right.
So it's, including those things into your budget. So maybe it was $400, and absolutely that can cause a true hardship for somebody if you weren't planning for it. But if you were putting $33 aside for it, that can, it would make that time, come, and you have those funds available. And then again, it's not a hardship and doesn't throw off everything else.
And and you need to pay things on time. If it's due, pay it on time. Because if you don't pay on time your mortgage, your utilities, then the other part that in Latinos you don't have is like, well, you open 10 credit cards, and if you owe everybody, you can still keep buying. Here, it's that purchasing power. If you have 1, 2, 3 credit cards and you don't manage well, no one is going to loan you any money for making your dreams come true. Imagine that you have 10 credit cards and then you want to buy a house and say, sorry, you have something in your credit.
And then they're going to go to those subprime,
they go to the subprime
lenders that are
cash
going to
places.
charge you an arm and a leg in interest.
Yes, or
of course.
they pawn stuff. So no, don't let that happen.
So one
to
thing
you.
leads to another. One little, problem here will generate a bigger
If you
problem
budget
down
well,
the road.
you will take good credit, good charge of your credit. So when you have a dream of buying your house, you can call Trellis for assistance, and it will say, great, you have a high credit. And you can start building your credit since you are 18. For those moms, okay, have your kid put, I don't know, $25 every month since they are little, so they have that habit of saving. They need to always save. Even if you give them the domingo, have them save.
Right. Go ahead.
Just one more thing I think I'd add for the spending plan is, I guess making the savings part of our spending plan. We always, the way we think right now is, okay, I'm going to pay, all my bills. I'm going to do and whatever I have left, I'm going to put into saving. Well, if we think that way, there's usually nothing left, right?
Of course.
So it's putting that percentage that we determine, that is, realistic, whether it's $5 or $500, whatever that amount is, being realistic that this is what I can save. And paying ourselves first. We go and say, we are our biggest investments. We need to invest in ourselves.
Right.
And making that priority.
And I wanted to say that it's not that you can't do things. You can still do things, but you're going to do it in a way that is not going to create a headache because it's part of your budget. Stay with us. We have to go on our last break. You're listening to AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. Educate. Celebrate. Connect. Arizona Hispanic Connection.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This is AARP, Arizona Hispanic Connection. I am your host, David Parra, and today we are addressing finances now and in the future. The better you do today, the better you'll be in the future. My phone number is all over the place, and I get a lot of calls regarding Social Security, Medicare, the Affordable Care Act, access, and basic finances, retirement. And my heart breaks a lot of times. Let me just give you an example. I just got a call yesterday, actually, where there is this man who worked 35 years for a company. He's paying into Social Security, and he never became a permanent resident. He was only working off of work permits. And when he went to, solicit the Social Security benefits, they told him, we can't give it to you because you're not documented, pretty much. And things like that, it just breaks your heart. So knowledge, as they say, is power. And that's why we have to continue to give this educational shows. If you don't mind, just give me just one more second. Please do not lose your thought. I just wanted to offer this book to folks that are watching by Facebook Live and even those that are just hearing us by radio. This book is called Finances 50 Plus by AARP. It is an amazing, it's a workbook. It's got everything that you need if you want to start managing your finances. And believe it or not, we also have it in Spanish, English and Spanish. You can download it from the website from AARP, aarp.org, aarp.org/finances 50 plus, aarp.org /finances 50 plus, or if not, join our page and send me a message at the Facebook page, AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. This you can download electronically. It is an amazing book. We actually give workshops using this book. So now go ahead.
I just wanted to add to your comment. You said knowledge is power, but I would add a little to it and say, if you put action to it, right? Because we can have all the knowledge, but if we don't do anything with that knowledge, it's not really going to do anything. And if we really want our financial lives to change, we have to start doing something different than we're doing now.
And also, there's a lot of people that help you there with financial planning, and they don't have their finances in order. So it's amazing, the call to action that you were saying. I love, AARP has so many resources that we don't know. Sometimes we think that you need to be in your 65 and over. And finances, I'm wondering, when you mentioned the website like AARP Finances 50 plus, really you need to start since 5 plus, not since 50 plus.
Yes.
I agree.
Well, the program is called 50 plus, but the information is applicable to any age.
I was just looking through it, and it's
they have so many resources and discounts and a lot of cultural information that it's needed. So I'm glad that you are doing now in the show in English and Spanish, because the Latinos that live here, they need to know. The case that you were mentioning, a lot of people say, I don't want to become citizen because I love Mexico. Well, you need to do what is good for you, for your family, for your retirement. You're not going to lose your Mexico blood.
Right.
But you just need to, if you live in a certain system, you need to follow the system.
Yes, and we will be addressing issues such as Social Security, retirement, Medicare, and all that. Sometimes I just wish that we had a daily show, but we'll just be careful what you wish for, right? Yeah, but we just have to be patient and address one issue at a time. Another thing that I believe is worth mentioning is that as Latinos, and I think not only as Latinos, but let's just focus on Latinos, we're just party people. We do a lot of partying, birthdays, the national holidays, quinceañeras, birthdays every year. And I believe we also, I don't know if I want to use, spend. We spend lots of dollars in those. So I also believe that there should be some kind of plan, even in what type of celebrations do we want to engage in and at what level. What do you think?
And I think you're right. For example, you need to budget that also. If you're going to do a quinceañera and your girl is 13, okay, well, right now, do it 2 years before I don't know, $50 by $50. But if you know, for example, quinceañera is 15, and when they are 18, they need to be in college, and you have no money because you spent already $50,000 in a quinceañera. The quinceañera is one party.
It doesn't make sense to spend basically
night.
your college tuition in one shot,
yes,
right?
in one shot.
Absolutely.
And the college tuition is your education forever. And the best thing you can leave your kids, it's education, because they will always find a job with education. So, yeah, we're party people, but we need to party within reason.
Right.
Within reason, not going above and beyond our means, because then we owe everyone. And if we owe everyone, imagine you owe a quinceañera. That means you are going to have a collateral loan. It's not a car loan. It's not a student loan. So the interests are going to be super high. And it ruins your credit by the time you want to get something else.
And sometimes, it's examining our values. What is it that we value? Right. Is it the education? Is it the quinceañera? Because for some, that might be it. And if that's the case, well, okay, we can't impose our values right on others.
Of course.
But it's planning for that. When your child's going to be 15 and how elaborate do I want it? And can I really afford it? Again, being true to ourselves, if it's, can we really afford it? We have 2 years right now. This is how much we have to put aside. And what's that going to get us, right? Without having to borrow and then having to, pay it back, for the next 5-10 years. So again, it's examining the values and really being realistic and true to what we can really afford.
And when you mention values, it has to start when our children are young, because if you allowed that desire for, and it's just for the sake of the conversation in a quinceañera, that what's it called? I guess the dream of a quinceañera, and it's sown into the child or into a young girl as a child, they're probably not going to leave it for the rest of their life. So it is so critical that, like you say, we kind of bring our values together. What are our values in this family? What are we going to do? How do we value things? And it's critical to start those conversations very early on, so that people will be okay when that quinceañera is not going to be like the neighbor, so to speak.
Yes.
And also for spending, brands. A lot of people want to keep up with the brand name when they are growing, with the brand name skirt, the brand name shoes, because everyone has brands. Well, at the end of the day, when you are in college, people are not going to remember if you have brand name shoes or brand name shirts, but they are going to remember, how much does she know? They're going to be impressed by the education. So things are just things.
Right.
The value of things gets lost, but the value of education
we
lasts
typically
forever.
learn those things early or later on in life, but I think it's great if a person can learn it young since youth. Yeah.
And then back to, even home ownership, it's like, okay, you can afford all these, brand names and purses and shoes. And, again, going back to the values and teaching our children. Yeah, you might see that, but yet, if you're saving for your home, where's that going to get you? Or for, for emergencies or for education, and again, trying to show them the difference of what that's going to get them and what to really value.
And that's very important, because imagine if you have everything, if you have your budget, your spending, your home, your car, your weekend home, if you have everything and then you go and want to get brand stuff, go ahead if that's what fulfills you. But first things first.
And that's the point that we really, really want to get across. We are not here to tell people what to do, but what we are doing is, whatever you do, don't let it work against you. If you're going to celebrate, if you have the money to do, outings, and do it. But what we are saying is, do it in a way that you budget so that it doesn't bite you, so that it doesn't lead you later on to go and ask for loans that are going to just deepen the problem. Absolutely. Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what happens. It just kind of this snowball effect, right? We go and get a loan, and now we need to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, and then we find ourselves in a situation where we can no longer pay, and now everything that should be going into our savings or into our future and our retirements is now going back to pay all the creditors that we owe.
And it reminds me that, and the creditors don't care if you owe them. It's like, get out, we're in business. I'm sorry you got sick, but get out. But a lot of people take from this credit card to pay the other card. So it's a hole that you just open one to cover another. So being in that rabbit hole thing, it's like it's going to end up damaging you completely, and it takes, I don't know, how many years to restore your credit.
Oh.
Right. And to basically end our show today, if you have any need of resources, obviously you can contact me, AARP, at our page, AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. I'm sure that they can contact Gloria, they can contact Brenda at Trellis. And there are other nonprofit organizations out there. I always kind of tell people, if in doubt, call the station. If in doubt, call Mari Rábago. If in doubt, call Chicanos por la Causa. If in doubt, call Friendly House. If in doubt, call Promise Arizona. I mean, there's already nonprofit organizations out there that if they don't have a program or a service, they will lead you in the right direction. Yes. But if in case they want to reach you, Gloria, would you mind giving just your contact information, and then Brenda, if you can do the same?
If they want to reach me, we will do a free financial analysis to help people and put them on the right track. We're here to guide them. Okay, my phone number is 623-249-4548. I repeat, 623-249-4548, or they can look us on the Facebook page of Bilingual Insurance.
Bilingual Insurance. Easy enough. Go ahead, Brenda.
And Brenda with Trellis, if you want to contact Trellis, 602-258-1659. And we do provide all of our financial coaching free of charge.
Great. Well, we have come to the end of our show again. And please remember, if you would like to get this a workbook, it's called AARP Foundation Finances 50 Plus. Just go to aarp.org/Finances 50 Plus, or just send me a little message at AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection on Facebook. And by the way, I'm really asking you to join our page, because the page is where we basically know who is listening, who is watching the radio. I know that thousands of thousands listen to the radio, but we don't know how many. And the one way to know is if you connect with us on Facebook. I mean, again, AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. Thank you for joining us. Join us next week. Have a great day. This was AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection.